Good evening, good evening, good evening, all my friends on Facebook. Good evening, all partners of AfriH. We do apologize for coming in a little bit late this evening. Had some technical issues we had to deal with, but it's good that we can be here. That we can just come to just admonish you and just encourage you as we think about Africa, as we think about Africa and our responsibility to the continent of Africa. Tonight I'm going to be doing a monologue. I'm going to be talking, actually doing a teaching concerning public policy. And I entitled this teaching Public Policy 101. Public Policy 101. And so I'm going to be sharing with you some things concerning policy in general and how Africa can grow in this area, how Africa can learn in this area, and how Africa can develop in this area. Because the intent of AfriH, which is African for the Restoration of Ethics in Government, our intent and our plan is to help Africa grow and develop. Is to come alongside African governments and to help them to share ideas and information with them that will help them make informed decisions that will better the lives of the African people. And so tonight I'm going to be doing a teaching Public Policy 101 so that you and I can benefit, we can learn how policies impact what happens in Africa and how our people can have a better and a more prosperous life on the continent of Africa. So it's an overview of public policy. And so start the question, what is policy? What is policy? Well, policy, in a layman definition of policy, is that policy is a position statement. It is a position statement. In other words, we all have policies. We all have policies that govern our lives, policies that guide our decisions. For example, how many of you, like someone smoking in your car? Or how many of you, like somebody, how many of you eat junk food or greasy food? Those are policies that you have for your own personal life, that drives your decision, that drives your activities, that drives your actions. There are some people that when you enter the home, you got to take off your shoes. Those are personal policies they have for the home. That maybe their entire home is covered with carpet, white carpet, or something light, and they don't want to get dirty, or they don't want to bring you germs for you to bring germs in their homes. So you got to take off your shoes. Those are personal policies that people have. There are some that believe in exercising regularly every day, where those are policies. That's your health policy that you have. So we all have personal policies that guides our lives, that guides our decision, that guides the way we do things. We have these policies that guide us. Okay, think about there are some, for example, when it comes to your monetary policy, you believe in buying only what you need. You don't want to be wasteful with your money, right? So that's your economic policy there. You believe in saving and investing your money. Those are your economic policies. There are some that believe, you know what? I just want to get out of debt. That's a policy. That's part of your economic policy. Or you say, you know what? I only accept a job that have a certain pay range. Okay, those are policies. So every single one of us have policies that guides our lives each and every day. Each and every day. Okay, so again, we have these position statements. So in a layman term, policy means to have a position statement on things that impacts your life. We have policies. Now, what is public policy? Okay, public policy. Now, simply put, you say public policy is a position statement of government, okay, that addresses issues affecting the way how government does or how government run her activities to take care of her citizens. That's public policies. Those are issues or position statements that government has to address issues that affect her operations to take care of her citizens. Now, that's the layman term again. But when you look at something more philosophical concerning public policies, you look at a set of actions, governmental actions that deal with issues or solve problems in society. All right. So those are that governmental actions, the actions that government take to address issues that confronts or that impacts society in general. Government has a responsibility to take care of a citizen, to take care of for their well-being and their welfare. And so anything that impacts her operations and how she addressed, those are what we call public policies. She used public policies, these set of actions, to show that this is how she would deal with XYZ that's impacting society in general. All right. So that's public policy. Now, policies can come in so many different forms. All right. For some, policies could be laws that's passed. Okay. Now laws, when we talk about laws, you are talking about, a system of rules recognized by a nation that controls the actions and the behavior of the citizens. Okay, it is also enforceable. All right. So laws could be perceived as public policy. All right. The law of the land is the policy of that land. Okay. So when you come into a nation, the laws of that nation those are the policies of that nation. Every single person within the boundaries of that nation, you are subject to those laws. All right, to those public policies. Now, policy could also be rules. It could also be rules. Now, rules they are more of a set of regulations, okay, that governmental agencies, okay, set up to interpret a particular law. All right. So, public policy can also be, viewed in that light. That agencies, based on existing laws, pass rules that interprets these laws. Okay. So policy can come in that form. It can be perceived as rules as well. Now, legislation, if you look at legislation as well, you're looking at policies, or laws being passed by Congress or by Parliament, being passed by Congress or Parliament. Okay, those are legislation. So when you think about policy in general, okay, it can take any of those forms. It can be perceived in any of those ways. Okay, that government passed or that government embraced to address social or political needs impacting the citizens of that nation. All right. Now, it's important to know that every administration comes up with their own policies on how they will address various social and political issues. Okay, every administration come up with with various policies on how they address issues. For example, okay, Democrats believe in what, taxing the corporations or taxing the rich so that they can take care of the poor or needy. Those are their policies. All right. They tax the corporations, they tax the rich, and they use that money to address social needs of the needy within the boundaries of the nation. That's the Democratic Party platform. While the Republican platform, on the other hand, they believe in giving tax breaks to corporations, so that they believe that by giving tax breaks, these corporations will create jobs and help the economy grow. Okay, so you see two different parties having two different platforms, economic policies to create wealth and to grow the economy of the nation. So governments come in with their own policies. It's not something that should be strange to us. They come up with their own policies. Okay, how do we do things? But the issue that we are having, is that when we think about Africa, it's not so much about policies being formed. It's not so much about policy being formed. Because I said policies are formed every day. Policies are generated every day. They come up with these policies, how they will conduct their affairs. Okay, so policies are being formed. I think, the problem we're having with Africa, the problem we're experiencing in Africa, and why AfriH exists to come alongside African government to help, is that when it comes to policies, it's not so much about the formation of policies, which, don't get me wrong, is important. And there are some instances that some policies are not really formed well. And we need to address that. Okay, we are not negating that. We need to address that. We need to have policies that's well formulated, okay, that's well structured, policy that's been based on research. You don't just sit and say, okay, I think I will do this. No, policy has to be based on research. You have examined the needs of society, you examine the needs of the community, and you formulate these statements, how you address these needs. Okay, so the issue we keep having is that it's not so much about the formulation of policies. That's not the primary problem we are having. Okay, I'm so sorry, my stuff is tilting a little bit. Okay, great. Thank you. So it's not so much about the formulation of the policies, okay? But the problem we are having, or the problem we have discerned, is of two folds. One is the the implementation of the policy, and two is about the evaluation of the policy. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, when it comes to implementation is putting policies into action, giving feet to the policies, all right? Now, Why is implementation a problem when we think about Africa and serving her people and taking care of her citizens? Because I said we have policies on the books. There are some policies that are well written. There are some policies that are well documented. Okay, but when you look at the implementation of those policies in the field, in the community, in the neighborhoods, when you look at the implementation, you see there's a lacking there. There are issues there. And sometimes this issue is because the agencies these policies are being entrusted into, okay, into their hands. Those agencies may lack knowledge how to implement policies. They may not have they may not have undergone training how to put policies into action. Okay, so they have these policies, it's been delivered to them, but the lack of knowledge, the lack of training and development impedes their ability to implement these policies correctly. That's the problem we have with implementation. The policies are there. It's given to the agencies. But the implementation of the policies, putting into action, is where we keep finding glitches and glitches and glitches. So it simply could be, lack of knowledge. They're not trained well. They're not developed well. Well, another issue with implementation could be we have limited resources to implement these policies. That these agencies have limited resources. Maybe they don't have enough cars to take personnel in the field. They don't have enough cars to gather data. They don't have enough stationery to do these things. So the lack of, the limited resources impedes implementation of policies. Now, also you're looking at maybe funding. We have the policies on the book, but the financing of those policies, the funding necessary to bring those policies to life, is not there. It's not there. Maybe it's not there. And so when you look at implementation and you identify all these potential problems with implementation, then you get to understand why Africa is going through so many things she's going through. Okay? So public policies, even though they are on the books and they are there, they are formulated, but implementation is something we need to look careful at. We need to give more attention to implementation. Okay, it's very important. Okay, there are times people may just lack the commitment to serve. Even though they have the policies, they have been given to the agencies, but there are some personnel that just lack the ability. They don't want to serve. They don't want to commit themselves to implement these policies. But yet they're being paid. So some of these things impacts Africa's success. It impacts the ability for government to take care of our citizens in Africa. Maybe they lack the skills. We talk about training and development. Okay, they need to be given these skills and be educated to get the necessary skills needed to implement policies. Okay, so implementation is one of the problems we need to consider when we think about Africa and the success of Africa to care and take care of our citizens. Now, the second problem that need to be addressed is not just implementation, but it is evaluation. Now, this is critical because oftentimes I think very seldom do you see most of our African leaders and governments going into evaluation. Many times we have the formulation of policy, we have the implementation, and that's it. That's where we stop. We don't go to the next step, which is the final and one of the most crucial of the steps, which is evaluation. Now, what does that mean? What am I talking about? By evaluation, what you are doing is that you're looking at the existing policies, you're analyzing it, you're dissecting it, you're studying it to see whether it was a success. That's what evaluation is about. You look at your existing policies that are on the books or that have been given to an agency. Okay, you evaluate, but by calling these agencies and sitting down with them and looking at how they are implementing these things or whether they are implementing it in the first place. And through evaluation, you can see whether this policy is a good policy. It just needs to be improved. This policy is a good policy, but the personnel are not fully trained. Or this policy is literally a bad policy because based on our evaluation, it is wasteful. I mean, it's taking unnecessary resources that can be given to another department or placed in the use in another area. So evaluation is very critical. It's very critical. And I think when AfriH, as we think about Africa and coming alongside Africa to help Africa position herself to care for her people, We want to suggest tonight that our leaders, African leaders and African governments, pay close attention, not just to implementation, but to evaluation. To evaluation. Now, I will summarize it with this by saying this. You see, there is a need for policy analysts. That's what I'm getting to. There is a need for policy analysts. Because when you talk about implementation and evaluation and policy information, you literally look at the purview of a policy analyst. A policy analyst. Now, who are policy analysts? Policy analysts are political scientists, okay, who pretty much what they do, they study political institutions or political systems. Okay, they look at how it's developed and they look at how it operates. So, and as policy analysts, they identify problems in a political system. They identify these problems, and then what they customize solutions, which is what we're talking about. When they customize solution, that's the formation of policies. So policies will address the problem they see. All right. So the policy analysts identify problems that's impacting Africa or that's impacting a community, and they find a solution. They come up with policies. Okay, they come up with policies, and then what they implement those policies, and then they evaluate those policies. They evaluate those policies. That is very crucial. If Africa is going to be a success in taking care of her citizens and the needy among her and caring for her in all sectors, whether it's the health policy or the academic policy or the economic policy, whatever policy they want to implement and put into effect that will help Africa improve and care for her citizens and all those things. If Africa's going to do it, then it boils down pretty much to this whole idea of having policy analysts in government. That government needs to identify men and women who have been trained in policy to analyze policies, so that they can hold all agencies accountable. That they can come alongside and help these agencies. These have to be independent individuals that will come alongside these agencies and see what is going wrong, to see what mistakes are being made, to see what errors are being made. Because once these analysts come in, because as a neutral body, they come in and they study existing policies and they see, the policy is weak in this area. You can improve it here. The policy is strong in this area. That's good. Then they advise government, because policy analysts are also policy advisors. They will advise African government, African leaders, how to adapt, how to adjust, and what decisions to make that will help improve the policies on the ground, implement those policies, and that will help better the lives of Africans in general. And so tonight, as we come to a conclusion, and to a close, we want to suggest and recommend. AfriH want to suggest and recommend to all African leaders. We want to suggest and recommend to you to look deeper into the area of policy analysts. Look deeper into that area, because we believe that's one of the key areas to help your administration. That's one of the key areas to help your government, to help your leadership, to help your legacy. That you need to have analysts that will come beside you, that will help you identify problems in the society, formulate solutions for those problems, put together policies, these solutions, put it in the hand of capable, well-trained agencies, and let the agencies implement it. And these analysts come alongside these agencies to make sure they are doing it, they are implementing these policies as it should be implemented for a better result. For better results. So we want to recommend to you that you need to think about it along these lines. Think about policy analysts. Do you have analysts around you that will look at your existing policies and look at the implementation of these policies and give you words of wisdom? That will be honest with you and say, this policy is not a success. Get rid of it. Formulate another policy. Or this policy is a good one, but we have these issues that need to be put in place to help it, in terms of its implementation. You need to examine, you need to look carefully in the area of policy analysts. This could be one of the missing links. I believe this is one of the missing links to the success of Africa, to the success of African governments caring for her citizens. And our hope tonight is that this discussion, this monologue will help inspire African leaders and African governments to re-examine how policies are formed, how policies are implemented, to re-examine these issues concerning policy making, because it is very critical to the legacy and to the well-being of the citizens of the very nations that they lead. I want to leave you tonight with the words of the motto of this organization: do better by doing right. And I will say to you again, Africa, we can do better by simply doing right. This is your host, Reverend Dr. Aquilus Ricks, coming to you live on our AfriH Facebook feed. Look to see you next week. I believe we have something great for you next week as well. And so you have a wonderful day. Do better by simply doing right. Have a good night, everybody.